What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm just in my front room at the moment. You guys have been asking for this particular video for quite some time. I mentioned it in one of my previous podcasts of my nightly routine with my foam roller. Something you guys can do, 5 to 10 minutes worth of foam rolling, hitting those specific areas that will really kind of release and kind of open up and give some sort of release and relief to the tight areas that many of you guys suffer from and that I see many of my clients suffer from, because so much of our life these days is spent in a chair. So we get really inactive glutes, our hip flexors get massively tight, and those two areas are big areas that kind of contribute to a lot of the lower back pain that many of you guys complain of. So in my nightly routine that I talked about in my podcast, part of that routine involved some foam rolling and some stretching. So I'm going to take you through that. So let's get right into it. I'll cut right now and I'll be on the floor. So let's go. See you in 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to the video. So now I'm on the floor. As I said, guys, you want to try and look at releasing. Most of the tension that you're going to be looking at is in through the hip flexors, in that glute, lower back and mid-thoracic type back. I think it's a lot of tension is going to be carried through the neck as well, and I'll show you a few little rolling techniques that I use with this foam roller on my neck. But most of the time is going to be spent on those hip flexors and glutes, because that's where most people kind of carry their tension and their tightness. So let's kind of get into those. So either you can start with some rolling and move into some stretching, or you can just start with some stretching, move into rolling. Personally, I like the rolling because it kind of gives me that, I guess, massage type feeling, and then I feel much looser to then go into some stretching. But if you like to do your stretching or a combination of and kind of going backwards and forwards, it's all up to you. Doesn't really matter, just get into those areas. So as I said, foam roller, I have the 90 centimeter one, I think it is. There's many different things you can do with this. It's not very travel friendly. I do have a shorter one that I have for when traveling, but when at home, try and get one of these long ones. I've been asked many times where to buy them from. Most sporting stores have them in Australia, places like Rebel Sport and things like that. But even your places like Target and Kmart, and for in the States, I think like I don't know, like Home Depot and things like that. A lot of them, even like swimming pool places that have like sell rubber, have these things. So they're everywhere. So basically just get down to your sporting and local goods store. I'm sure you'll be able to find, or go to your physio. A lot of them stock these, but they will put a premium on it. So you don't want obviously paying premium prices. So yeah, try and find them for there. But I get the 90 centimeter one. As I said, guys, there's a spot that sits right between our kind of front of the hip area and then the actual leg. In that kind of crevice in there is where that hip flexor crosses the hip joint, and that's what we want to dig into. So what you're going to do is put some tension into that spot. And what the big mistake I see a lot of people do with foam rollers is they try and roll their entire kind of body or body part that they're kind of doing. So that might kind of look something like this, where they're kind of rolling all the way through here. I think it's a huge mistake, because you lose some of that tension that you're trying to put into the area. What I like to do is find a spot, move about kind of 10 to 15 centimeters on that, and just really dig in through that area through there. So I'm really focusing on my hip flexor at the moment, and when I want to move down, what I'll then do is move a little bit further down, and then work on that area through there, and then move a little bit further down, move on that area through there. So I like to kind of, as I said, spend the time that you want, whether that's 2, 5, 10 minutes. There's no amount of this that is too much, so the more time you spend on it, the better. And you just want to put as much pressure into this as you can possibly stand. If you're very new to this and very tight, this stuff hurts. It's going to be like, getting that Swedish massage, kind of getting deep into those muscles. So put on that pressure and tension that you feel comfortable with, but it's got to be a little bit uncomfortable, because you've got to obviously be putting that kind of depth into the muscle and into those tendons, and really kind of trying to break them up and release some of that tension. So as I said, both sides, I'm not going to obviously show both sides today, guys, but try and be about equal on it. I would usually spend 2 to 3 minutes into that hip flexor, really putting some big pressure. Like I've basically got, my legs are off the ground. I'm putting every bit of weight I can possibly do into that hip flexor and rolling that backwards and forwards through there. From that position, I'll then move into the side of my leg. You might hear it kind of be called the Itb Band. That's the one that then runs from the side of the hips and down into the legs rather than the front of the hips. For almost all of us, that's a very tight part of the body. Spend some time on that. This one really hurts. It's almost kind of like vomit rearing sometimes. I'm not too bad at the moment, but kind of just finding that spot, getting backwards and forwards on it, spend a couple of minutes on it and break that up, and then move right around to the back. This is where we find our glutes. So there's three parts of the glute. You've got glute max, medius, and minimus. Max is the bum, that's what you sit on. Minimus and medius, medium, like the medius, sorry, I should say, are kind of more kind of rotational kind of muscles for the hips, and then what kind of make your legs kind of do this action, so rotating out like that. They're areas that usually, the glute max itself, the bum, usually isn't a very tight area. It's certainly inactive and kind of underactive if you're sitting all day. But it's the glute minimus and medius that kind of are the ones that really get tight. And so stretches like these, where you're kind of pulling through, will stretch in through that glute medius and glute minimus area. But you also want to dig into it with your foam rollers as well. So getting onto that, rolling through that glute med, glute min, finding those tight spots. For me, glute min, which is a little bit more to the side. Glute med's a little bit kind of more central and kind of quite deep. Glute min is right on that side point where you can kind of, that tension that you kind of feel like digging yourself in through there. So again, don't make a big movements. We're not trying to move our whole bum here. Very small. Just find that, that's quite nasty at the moment, but find those little tight spots, work backwards and forwards on it for a couple of minutes, really start getting in through there. So that's the three compartments of the upper body that I was talking about. The upper parts of the lower body that I was talking about. So we had the hip flexor into the Itb band, which then runs down the leg and then up in and around to the glutes, glute min and glute med. And of course that glute max, you obviously still want to work into there as well. You then want to start looking at to get into the hamstrings as well. Now that we're in this position, we can work in that hamstrings. You can do both legs at once, kind of working back to here, but I don't think you're going to get much tension through that. As I was saying before, you want to try and put as much pressure as you can through that area. So just getting onto one leg. Again, stay small, guys. Don't try and do the whole leg. Just get on that one area, move it down a little bit further, onto that next area, and then from there, you can then move into the calves. You're still on this back portion of the leg. Now, there's going to be a couple of areas that are going to be tight in your calves as well. You got the kind of outside portion of your leg, you got the back of the leg, and then you got the, I guess, medial or the inside of the leg. Again, find those areas that are tight for you. Because I do a lot of running, and any of you guys that do a lot of walking or running will have very tight calves. So make sure you spend some time on those calves as well. So whether it's the outside of that calf, the back of that calf, or the medial or kind of inside of that calf, spend that time through there. And then you just start making your way back up the body. So you kind of just basically do a circle around the body. I'd start my calves on this side, working through there. And obviously I'm going to show you my bum here, but we're then going to be on the left side hamstrings, and then we can come on to that left side ITB, left side hip flexor, and you're kind of making the full lap of the legs through there. So that basically gives you an idea of the foam rolling of kind of the hips and legs area. So let's now move to look into the lower back area. So there's two ways of doing this, guys, and again, there's no wrong or right, and you can do certainly a combination of both. Doing a kind of range of motion where you're just kind of moving rather than rolling, I think can be really beneficial, kind of just pulling yourself back and then coming up almost like a sit-up, and then moving just a little bit further down, coming back and up. And so we're working that foam roller up through the spine from the lower lumbar area into the kind of thoracic and mid-thoracic area. A lot of people, I'm very guilty of this. If you're on a laptop and you spend most of your time kind of in bed on a laptop or even on a desk on a laptop, you get a lot of curvature through that mid-thoracic area. So where that foam roller is now. So obviously you've got your scapula and your shoulder blades. That's up towards the top end of that area. Just below that is that kind of mid-thoracic area. So really kind of doing some big arches on that and kind of giving some relief into that area and kind of trying to release some of that tension can be really nice feeling, but also very beneficial for you, especially if you spend a lot of time on a computer, and in particular a laptop, which is just a horrific area. Now, I did mention before that we'd look at the neck as well. I like to lie my neck across it, and then basically you just put some pressure into that and then turn your head side to side. There's not a whole lot of rolling you can do on the neck. Obviously it's a pretty fragile area, so you wouldn't want to be putting a lot of pressure and then rolling on that. But just rolling side to side like that, and then moving it up a bit And really digging that in and just rolling backwards and forwards can be really nice and kind of really relieve some tension through there. But again, that's the kind of movement patterns. But then if we go into some rolling, you just lift those hips off the ground. Let me give you a bit more of a side-on view of that. So from there, if we're lifting our hips off the ground, we can then get some rolling through there. Now I've just got my hands behind my head just so I like to support my neck so it's not kind of falling out through here. But then just, as I said, rolling through there, and then you can move that up the back again, rolling through that thoracic area as well, and then getting up even to that top end of that thoracic, almost into cervical type area, but it's also going across your shoulder blades as well. So if you're carrying some tension through there, you can certainly help out that, but I'm going to show you some movements on that area in a second and why I have this long foam roller, but movements like that can be really nice as well. So that's most of the rolling that you're going to have done from here. What I'll then like to do is then turn this up and down, and again, this is why I like a long foam roller for while I'm at home, is you then sit right on the end of that, right on the back of that, head supported up through here, and then just letting those arms turn out at 90 degrees through there. A lot of people carrying a lot of tension and tightness through that front end of that shoulder. Don't try and force your hands to the ground, but just letting that tension just kind of, oh sorry, I should say gravity, just open up those shoulders and just kind of relieve some of that tension, give a good stretch through that area in the front of those shoulders. If you want to put like a 1 kilo dumbbell in your hand, or if you've got like a can of beans or like a drink bottle or something, just something that gives you a little bit of weight, can certainly help to kind of just open you up through that area as well. But just relax, don't try and do anything too much in this area, but just sitting through that area right there, and just, I sometimes do my meditation in this position here, just close my eyes and just let life go on by, and just let that gravity kind of really pull those shoulders open. And you'll, like if you kind of took a photo of yourself when you start, you might be kind of here and it's really tight, but by the time you're finished, gravity will have done its work and just really pulled you open and kind of opened up that shoulder girdle kind of area. And then what you can then do is then moving into some rolling, brace yourself, and you can kind of roll across that area in the back end of those shoulders, kind of up in through the lats in here and those rear delts and things like that that get really tight, because again, we're sitting at a computer desk all day, we're all hunched over, that tightness is pulling on through there. So kind of rolling, and of course, you then roll out through that other side. Now that's most of my routine that I like to go through with a foam roller and some of those stretches. If you want to kind of look into kind of getting into some more stretches through the hip flexors, you can do certain movements like this one where you're kind of opening up through that hip flexor through there. Then some some yoga poses. I don't even know what they're called, but something like the cobra kind of pose through there, and I think maybe baby's pose or whatever it might be called. I don't know what they're called. I'm not a yoga person, but something along those kind of lines can really help to relieve some of that tension through here. And then that kind of angry happy cat where we're on the side, we're getting that hip to kind of move through and then rotate the other way, and kind of getting those stretches and movements through that back area as well. And so guys, that's been 12 minutes of that video there. If you can spend that kind of 10 to 15 minutes every single night on a foam roller with some stretches, part of that nightly routine that I talked about on that podcast, I'll try and do the links in the bottom of this to that podcast if you guys haven't heard that already. But they can be some really good kind of things to put you in a good place, or put your body into a good place to then go to bed feeling much more, relieved. My daughter's having a hissy fit out there. Feeling much more relieved and getting that tension out of the body. So a lot of people think going to bed is kind of the relaxing time, but if your body's all kind of from a day of being at a computer and kind of feeling tight and yuck, getting into bed and kind of lying in the same position all night is just kind of adding to that tension. So you want to spend some time putting it into a foam roller and kind of relieving that tension in, especially the hip flexors, especially the glutes, but also in through that back area from the lumbar to the thoracic to the mid-thoracic, and as I said, those kind of neck rolls that I did through that cervical region. So hope that's been a great tutorial. I hope that's helped, guys, and I hope that's giving you some idea of kind of what I do, and I hope that can kind of bleed into your life and kind of help you guys out and kind of help with any lower back pain you might be suffering from, any tension and headaches you might be getting up through that area. So there's been another video, hopefully many more of these to come. Thanks for joining in. If you have liked it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for many more videos to come, and I'll see you next time.